Next, we'll have Standard and Assessment Committee. The chair of that committee, who is doing that? Oh, board member, okay, is Jennifer Gravitt. And so we'll turn the time over to you, Chair Gravitt. Let me turn this back on.
So in standards and assessment, we had 5 actionable items for the board. The first one is R277495, which we've talked about, and there is an amendment from Linda, but let me just tell you, it's the required policies for electronic devices. It requires districts to have a policy. Originally, we were going to repeal this, but it came back, and it's a good thing we didn't. Anyway, the motion for the board, after we made some changes, would be to move that board approves R277495 draft 4 on second and final reading, however.
However, but, so it's still, we've got to put it on
Yeah.
the floor here. So the committee moves that the board approve R277-495 draft 4 on second and final reading. Discussion to that motion is board member Linda Hansen.
Hi, I have an amendment for us to discuss. If you'll look under your,
Can we get it brought up on the? Okay, you have a proposed amendment. Does it have a name? Is it?
they're just
Draft.
saying it's called Linda Hansen Amendment 1.
It's great.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah, the motion is to add it into draft 4. But just so you guys know, this is what Jeff has worked on, that he tells me, he's here, but he tells me that these are the changes that they have asked for on,
So before we
That
get
we
into
talked
that,
about
is your
previously.
motion to amend?
I guess I need a second, huh?
Yeah, we need to get a second. So okay. We have
My
a
motion is
Who
to
seconded it?
amend
Okay.
and
got
to
it.
add this
Okay, this language. So let's
this
get a second,
language,
then we'll get
and
into
so,
discussion.
and, you know, if there are changes to this language, I think that's fine as well, whatever you guys want to do. You heard Jeff's explanation earlier, so whatever you think
Okay, well, this is
needs to happen with this.
this is your amendment, so you
Kind
can
of.
speak. Well,
Yeah, it's kind
you're-
of mine, yeah. I'm
This is a house-
I'm the messenger, so don't shoot the messenger. So, yes, I move that we add this amendment to
Okay, and the amendment is in our board doc.
R277495.
Okay, and we have a second from Board Member Bolter. Discussion to the motion. Let's just take a quick pause. We announced that it was in the backup, but, okay, we have discussion to the motion. Board Member Earl?
An amendment to the amendment? I'm not sure what I need to make on the motion, but I wonder if, because of this, the length of this and being able to filter it, that we actually move this back to committee to look at and then have a month to go through it. But I don't know, what was that? No? Okay. Okay, it's just a thought. I don't know.
I understand that. We've talked about that a little bit. And
Okay.
maybe what Mark, Chair Huntsman's suggestion is that we, look at it. If you have questions, we can talk about it at next Thursday's meeting when it's not so long. But moving it back to committee would take too long, I think, and wouldn't fulfill what we need to be working on. So
We could take a motion, you could make a motion to postpone. Is that to the next Thursday meeting? You're welcome to make that motion. Is that your motion? Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, I want to give you the opportunity to speak to your suggestion, but Board Member Earl, you're back on. You had a,
Okay, I'm just
Are we
asking that we
waiting?
maybe postpone it
Oh,
to next
okay.
week. Not maybe, that we postpone it to next
Thursday.
Thursday.
So that's
Yeah.
a time certain,
Yes.
okay?
Patty says that's a problem. Patty's saying that's a problem.
Okay. Okay, I don't have a second yet.
Jeff can speak to it, but
Okay.
Patty's saying that
Yes,
that's,
speak to it then.
okay.
Chair,
Sorry.
if I may.
So there's not you can withdraw. you can withdraw. So you want to withdraw? I know, but,
Let Jeff speak.
hold up, but there's, do you want it on there, or do you want to withdraw? Okay. All right, we're back to the motion. Board Member Hanson. Linda Hanson.
They're telling me apparently that it's being held in committee pending our action. So that's why they don't want to wait very long because, or we shouldn't wait very long because it's being held in committee at the legislature pending our action.
That's my understanding, too.
That is correct. Representative Pulsifer is in a holding pattern regarding your response in this rule today. If you wait until next Thursday, that may be enough time. I have not had a chance to speak to her. She may feel that that's too long and she'll move forward with her bill. I don't know. But I'd be happy to explain the changes, and if you wanted to take some time.
Okay, do you want to explain the
Sure.
changes, please?
Very quickly.
Okay, before we get into that, Board Member Lear, can you hold until we explain the changes? Okay, thank you.
So one of the differences between the bill and the rule is they delineate a restrictive policy and permissive policy, and they were very extensive definitions in the bill. So, and there were some concerns expressed about how extensive those were. So what I did here was say the policy. So whenever we're going to refer to the policy in the rule, we're saying it's a policy that is either for permissible uses or a policy for restricted uses. That way we kind of, and I said under certain circumstances to make a little more general language rather than the prescriptive language that was in the bill. The request was also made for line 157, so we had everything we require for the policy, and then we said in the rule, and these are these additional things you may require. The request was to say you have to require all of them, so that's the may to a shall. And then the final piece is actually almost verbatim from the bill itself regarding the training components. So if and this, I will point out, is on a school level, not an LEA level, so requiring the schools shall each provide a training once a year. The bill requires that training be within the first 20 days. We did get a chance to call Granite School District, speak to a couple people there, and they said 20 days is not possible because you have a lot of para-educators that are under contract, and this may be before they're under contract and would be additional funding that they would have to then come up with to do the training. So we moved it to 45 days so that it would fit with the contract issues. But then essentially provide training on the policies themselves. The bill does outline the need for the training to include LEA's conduct and discipline policies generally and how they relate to the electronic use device policy. And then at the end, they also had a section, if a school adopts permissible uses within their policy, to also train on what those uses are. We did change under 1B. We added the training should include the importance of digital citizenship. That is not in the bill, but we wanted to also make sure we were promoting digital citizenship. So those are the changes, and feel free to do with that what you will.
Board Member Lear.
I would rather, and I'm just in spirit of making a comment, I would rather have a little more time to think about this rather than being pushed into something because a legislator is holding a bill that didn't pass out of committee anyway.
They didn't vote on it.
I was there. I knew what happened. They did vote. It didn't pass out of committee because there were 6 on either side.
Okay,
The
Board Member.
They did vote on the, no, I lied.
They voted on the 6-6 vote was the split on the sex education
That's
bill.
right. No?
They just,
Oh, yeah.
they voted
That's right.
to just move to the next
That's
agenda
right, move to
item.
the next item. That's right, you are so sorry. I mean, I am so sorry. You are so right. You are so right.
All right, I want to,
I am so sorry. A lot of apologies this board meeting. Anyway, here, my concern is I would rather wait and get it right without being pushed into a time crunch. My concern is the last few lines. I think that, and we could all agree that that just seems second nature or intuitive, but I also think requiring each educator who allows the use, how is that even monitorable? How is that, and I'm really, really resisting rules that can't.
The disclosure.
And notify parents on a disclosure statement, but I don't ever intend to monitor this. I don't think any of us do. We're talking about each educator, not each school that has educators within it, not even each LEA, but each educator. I just think putting things in a rule like this is not a good practice. And I would like to be persuaded that there's a better way to say it, or in a more thoughtful way. So I think if I would vote against, the rule just because I feel like it hasn't been thoughtfully considered.
Okay. Again, I just want to remind the board that the rule has come out of committee and it's before us with a proposed amendment. We're speaking to the amendment. Board Member Davis. Your light was on, right?
I wanted to make a motion to support the bill minus the last 3 lines, but that isn't specifically in the amendment discussion, is that right?
You can propose an amendment.
Is that
to
right?
You can amend the amendment if you choose and remove.
I move to amend the rule and delete the
hold
last
it.
3 lines.
You want to amend the amendment,
I'd move to amend the amendment.
which includes removal of the last 3 lines. Is there a,
Yes.
is there a second to the amendment to the amendment? Did we get a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion to the amendment, Board Member Scott Hansen.
I dropped off. I'll yield to Scott Nielsen. Did I drop?
Are you in?
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm
Or
sorry.
Scott
Scott
Hansen?
Nielsen is who's got
Okay,
his lights
as far
on.
as the last 3
But I thought you were
lines,
trying to turn your.
I teach high school, and I just put that in my disclosure document, and I send it home. And parents know, because sometimes I have to take away cell phones in my classroom. And so parents know why I've taken the phone away, or, for one reason or another. And that's in my disclosure document. So I think teachers, it's pretty easy, because I don't talk to parents as far as I just send home a disclosure document that they sign and they read over, and they're saying, hey, inappropriate use of your cell phone in the classroom results in A, B, or C. And I have never had a problem. Never, because parents already know. So those last 3 lines do not bother me.
Board Member Davis.
I'd just like to speak to the motion. The reason I took them out is because it seems like the rest of the bill is the rest of the rule is addressed to LEAs, and the last 3 lines are specific to classroom teachers. So I think LEA could certainly put that in and monitor that on a classroom level, but we monitor on an LEA level. Is that right?
Well, we can go as far as we want.
Okay. I still want to keep it.
Okay, Superintendent Dixon.
I had the pleasure of having a focus group of 10 teenage girls on the phone last night in a video conference. And they were talking about, we were talking about policy, how policy is made, and talking about the difference between local, state, and legislative policy. So rule versus state policy. So we used 2 examples, and one of the things that we talked about was this particular rule and the bill, and what the difference would be. So I just had them as a focus group. I said, if you could create a rule or change a policy, what would it be in regards to personal devices, specifically cell phones? And they came up with 3 consistent messages. One, they said they want policies to be consistent in their school and not teacher to teacher, because it gets very confusing if one teacher wants one thing and one teacher wants another. So they wanted consistency and follow through with that consistent policy. And they all had a variety of opinions, but that was something they agreed on. The second thing that was brought up that they all agreed on was that there should be exceptions. So if there's a particular personal project that they're involved in, or something that would stray from the policy, that they should have the ability to negotiate that with the parent and the teacher to have an exception. And then the third was that there's some respectful use of the policy, of the devices, and that they actually appreciate having security at the school, so it protects them from things. And I thought that was so interesting coming from seniors, that consistency was the most important thing to them.
Board Member Scott Nielsen.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that's happened in my school, and I love my school, is that, as you mentioned, Superintendent, there is very little consistency with this. And I teach a current issues class, and I asked my current issues students just maybe 2 weeks ago, we had a social, the issue was social media, and it was what my parents don't know about social media. If I brought those papers here for the board to read, you would be I was blown away, but you would be too. And one of the students spoke up, one of my students spoke up, and he told me, he says, yeah, I really need to kind of not use it as much. I said, well, what's going on? He says, well, I probably spend 6 to 8 hours a day on social media. He says, and almost 5 hours of that is at school. Has his phone on somewhere, and now with today's Bluetooth, he's got longer hair. I can't tell that he's listening to music, but he is. And it's a tremendous distraction. Another thing, and I feel like that's a disservice, but another thing is our school, I've asked our administration about this, and our administration's like, well, some teachers have a rule, and some teachers don't, and we're not going to do anything about it. And I've been like, well, what's the policy? Well, there is a policy, but we're not going to do it. So a lot of teachers at our school, in my school, don't feel supported in this at all. And so right now, as we speak, you can essentially be on your cell phone at any time in any class, and very, very few teachers, because there's no consensus and there's very little teeth in any of these policies, kids are spending tremendous time on social media, which, I mean, I love social media, but there's a time and place when they shouldn't be, when they should be doing other things. And it is, in my estimation, affecting kids' grades, it's affecting their, self-esteems and things like that. So that's why I'm supportive of a bill like this, because school should be for school, not 5 hours of social media and then me just doing what I need to do to scrape by. And I feel like this bill puts more teeth into that. Or rule. Excuse me, rule.
Okay.
My bad. Anyways, sorry, I'll get off the soapbox.
Board Member Ellis.
I was originally going to vote for the amendment because I was feeling like it's a little too prescriptive, but I've been persuaded. I actually, after listening to this, feel like this gives the educators more teeth, so that, because a lot of people push back against policies with cell phone use in the classroom. I think there's a fine line to cross over between what is a family's responsibility and the school's responsibility. But when the student steps into a teacher's classroom, the teacher has every right to dictate acceptable use policies for their classroom. And so this isn't prescriptive into how they develop that policy or what it says, just that there is something said. And the requirement could be as simple as, we are a free cell phone use or electronic classroom, or it could be prescriptive. And so there is still a lot of flexibility and allowability for the teacher and the local LEA to decide what is best for their classroom. So I'm going to vote against the amendment.
Okay, the amendment to the amendment is to strike the last 3 lines as shown.
I know, I'm
Chair
already-
Gravitt.
Okay, I just want to speak to the amendment. And I guess one of the things I like about this rule is, it's required school-level training, and you have to have a school policy, which goes back to the consistency. And I will tell you, this year, our school kind of united, and it's been great. But I think the last 3 lines, it's a little bit redundant, because if you're creating a school-wide policy, do you also need each teacher to have an additional policy? Because that will lead to inconsistency to me. If it's a school policy, it's a school policy. Either your school has permissible uses or they have restricted uses. If it's a school policy, it can't. I'm just speaking to the amendment. I would like to remove the last 3 lines. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak to the amendment to the amendment? Okay. Board Member Hanson.
And I'm sorry, I should know this better, but is this the only place that parents are notified. I'm thinking this is the only place that parents are notified.
In those 3 lines?
In those 3 lines. And I think parents need to be notified. So I'm thinking that we should keep it in or change it so that parents are notified in a different way.
There is a, Chair, if I may, very quickly.
Yes, please.
There is a section in the rule that does require the LEA post the policy, whatever it may be, and the school to put on their websites as well, whatever their policy is. Correct.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other discussion to the motion, to the amendment, so we're going to vote on this. So we're voting on the amendment. To the amendment is to remove the last 3 lines. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Well, the ayes, raise your hand. Board Member Gravitt, Board Member Lear, Board Member Newell, Board Member Belknap, Board Member Davis, Board Member Cannon. Okay, motion fails. Okay, so we're back to the original amendment that has those lines in it. Any other further discussion to the amendment? Board Member Scott Hansen.
I'll call the question for that motion.
Called the question. That's an end debate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Okay. We're voting on so the motion before the board is that the board approve R277-495. Oh, draft 4 as amended?
No.
Okay.
We're not to that yet. We have to vote on the amendment first.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I am trying to hurry us along. So we're voting on the amendment
Which is to add the language.
to add the language to draft 4. So we're going to vote on that now. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No. Can I explain my vote in 20 seconds or less?
Yeah.
Can you do that, Carol?
But turn your,
I feel like I'm being rushed, and I can't do that. I can't thoughtfully agree to this or not. I don't think it adds a different component. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now we're to approve R277-495 draft 4 as amended. So no discussion. We're going to vote. I'll restate that again. That the board approve R277-495 draft 4 as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Chair Gravitt, please continue.
Okay, good work, team. Our next actionable item was R277-486. This is the Professional Staff Cost Program, and it was an amendment and continuation. In this rule, it just requires that you have a certain percentage of the professional staff of LEAs to be licensed. This just adds that work in a regional service center, professional experience in a regional service center can be counted. And then we also removed lines 104 to 108 because that information exists in code. So the motion for the board is the Standards and Assessment Committee moves that the board approve R277-486 draft 2 on second and final reading.
The motion before the board is the board approve R277-486 draft 2 on second and final reading. Discussion to the motion?
Could I just make a clarification?
Okay.
Should we say amend and continue?
Amend and continue. It doesn't.
It's a continuation, so it needs just to say amend and continue.
So how come we don't have that in here?
It doesn't say it in here, but it should be.
Add it on second,
It
where
should
do
be
I
in
write
there,
it in?
so, yeah.
Where do I write it in?
Yeah, because it says amendment. Information up in there
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay, I'll put that.
Okay. The motion to the board is to approve as amended with continuation that the board, is that where we're at? Is that the proper How come we don't have this right?
Amend and continue.
To amend and continue R277-486, draft 2 on second and final reading. Board Member Bolter.
Sorry, I'm just trying to understand, what then would this do to LEAs, especially like small ones, where what if they couldn't meet that percentage?
Well,
Then they'll lose their funding?
it was already a rule. This just actually broadened it, so you can include experience from those who work in a regional service
okay.
center. So I think that means it's more likely they're going to get their funding, because it's not just if you have them licensed in their area, they get credit for experience in a regional service center. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Any further discussion to the motion? As amended and continued, R277-486, draft 2 on second and final reading. Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Voting is unanimous.
Okay, R277-400 is the School Facility Emergency and Safety. This is also an amendment and continuation. This rule was amended to incorporate stakeholder feedback, and for the most part, the changes were stylistic and grammatical. You can see that line 93 was changed to: a school official may release a student who is 15 years old or older without such notification if authorized by the LEA or school. That was really the substantive change, except for they were updated to fit with International Fire Code per the Utah State Fire Marshal. So the motion for the board is the Standards and Assessment Committee moves, and I guess it would be that it amended and continued, Lorraine?
Board
Yeah, it doesn't say that on here, but.
approved and continued.
Okay. The Standards and Assessment Committee moves that the board approve and continue R277-400, draft 2 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve and continue R277-400, draft 2 on second and final reading. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Voting was unanimous.
Okay, R277-528 is the use of Public Education Job Enhancement Program funds. This is also an amendment and a continuation. So this statute is scheduled to, for the funds is scheduled to sunset in July 1st of 2020. However, the funds come from a different place now, but we still have 5 teachers left in the program. We don't want to leave them stranded. So other than removing lines 56 to 57, the motion for the board was the Standards and Assessment Committee moves that the board approve and continue R277-528, draft 2 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve R277-528, to approve and continue R277-528, draft 2 on second and final reading. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Voting was unanimous.
Okay, last one. R277-704, the Financial and Economic Literacy, the integration into core curriculum and financial economic literacy student passports. This is an amendment, and you heard about this earlier today with HB 286. It just implements financial and economic literacy education. It takes out the passport and things like that. I don't know that we had any changes within the committee, so the motion for the board is the Standards and Assessment Committee moves that the board approve, it's just approve R277-704, draft 1 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve R277-704, draft 1 on second and final reading. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Voting is unanimous.
Okay, that concludes Standards and Assessment report.
Okay. We're not gonna go into our finance committee report. We're gonna move on to, we're gonna deal with it later.